Okay, one thing I forgot to mention was listen to how I pronounce the words. So when I'm going down through these list of words, just listen to how I pronounce them, so that way you can get a better idea of where the stress and the glottal stops lie. Alright, so yeah. Anyway, moving on. The first word in this list is humablos, right? Humablos. And humablos means stepchild, right? The stepchild or stepchildren or whatever, right? And that's coming from like a stepmother's side or your I don't know, your step parent or step family side, right? Humablos, which is like a child that is not, I guess, not blood related, but you just kind of adopted it, you know. Um, so yeah, labad is a specific word. Sakit sa ulo, right? It's a headache. Labad. We have a specific word for that. Instead of saying ay sakit sa ulo, you can say ay nay ko labad. Alright. Next one is hagbong. Hagbong, right? Hagbong means to drop or for something to fall and then like break or scatter or something like that, or just like something big and it makes like a loud thud, like a boom sound because it dropped, right? How is this different from hulog? Hulog just means like for something to fall, or you know, it's just like we use hulog to describe something that's falling, like falling, you know. Whereas hagbong is like, okay, drop it, like drop, boom, like that. I dropped the pen, right? And you can use hagbong as a verb to say, oh, don't drop it, you know, I hagbong, don't drop, right? Don't drop. Whereas hulog is just fall, like it fell. Oh, okay, fall. So they're similar words, right? They're similar verbs, but hagbong, drop, and you dropped it, or you accidentally dropped something and it crashed and it broke, or and it made a loud sound and boom, right? Bagoy is just a bum, right? You're just a little bum, useless bum. We can use this to describe someone who's also maldito, very annoying, very, you know, just someone who's like a street dweller, a bum, a poor person can be. It can be a poor person. It's like kind of like, if you're poor and we describe you as a bagoy, it's kind of a demeaning way to describe you. But bagoy is just like, oh, you're just a bum, like you're useless bum, you're just standing out there doing nothing. You can be maldito sometimes, maldita sometimes. Yeah, bagoy. Hungit means to feed. Whether you're feeding someone with a spoon, you're feeding someone with your own hand, you're feeding yourself, feeding children. Hungit, feed, right? When you're hungry, hungit, feed yourself, right? Takod means for something to be contagious, to infect somebody, to infect anything, to contaminate something, right? To spread diseases, whatever. Takod. Matakdan, remember we talked about that. Takod, matakdan. Awas means to overflow or to spill over, to overspill, and this is in terms of liquids, right? So for example, right, you have a pot and it's boiling, right, and it's boiling and all of this water is like spilling over. Awas is the word to use, right? Or if you're filling something with water or a liquid and then it's flowing because the container can't hold anymore, it's overflowing. Like awas na ang tubig, right? The water is now overflowing. Bakak is to tell lies, or for something to be false, right? To tell lies or for something to be false. And that's where we get the word bakakon, which means liar, and other derivatives like makak, etc., etc. Bakak, to tell lies or to tell something false or to tell something that's not true. Anino is a shadow, right? Your own shadow that you casted, right? Anino. Versus, how is this different from landong? Landong just means shade, right? But anino is a shadow. They're similar, right? Again, shade and shadow similar. Landong can be something like when a tree is casting its own shadow, its own anino, you can use the anino, the shadow, as a landong, which is a shade. So when a tree is casting its own shadow, you can use that shadow as a shade, landong, right? Or you can even have your own landong. Yeah. If someone is taller than you and they cast a bigger shadow, you can use their shadow as a shade. Huh. Dugwat. Dugwat means to gag or to retch, like you're about to throw up. Like that kind of action. The is to gag or to retch. like because maybe you smelled something, or like you had something and it's just like coming back up your throat, right? That means to gag or to retch. It's dugwa because maybe you smelled something bad and then you just want to gag and just vomit, like you're about dugwa, about to throw up. Suka is to actually vomit or to throw up. Right? Dugwa means like maybe you just vomited a little bit or just about to throw up with that gag reflex. Suka is actually vomiting, like the actual throwing up verb. So they're very related. Those two verbs are very related. Borit is a some if you describe someone who's borit, they're a bragger. Yeah, a braggart, or someone who likes to boast about themselves or about other stuff or brag about stuff, right? Borit, right? And usually what they say is untrue. So usually what they say is untrue, but they're people who like to brag and boast. Another person Another way to describe this person is hambugero. Hambugero is like someone who's a very who just loves to be a bragger. Hambugero. I should have written that down. Hold on, I'll write it down. All right, so I wrote it down right here. Hambog, right? Um, and hambog or borit, they're similar. Hambog, or someone who is hambogero or hambogera, the ero endings, remember, very boastful or loves to brag. Kahimtang is another word that you know it as a situación. This is actually borrowed Spanish word, situación. The indigenous word for situación is kahimtang. Okay, so situación and kahimtang, they both mean the same thing. They both mean like the status or the circumstance of things, or how things are, the situation of things, the current state, the state of things, the status of things, of life, situación or kahimtang, same thing. Bukad means to bloom, as in like flowers, something to just enlarge or open up, like it's just gonna woo, right? It's gonna open and bloom up, open out. Bukad, to enlarge or to bloom, right? Yabag is something that's abnormal, strange, or irregular, right? Yabag. So if you see something and it's just not normal, and it's just strange and just different, and I put in parentheses how you can describe yabag. So for example, like buang. Buang is like a crazy person, right? Like you see somebody, they act strange, they act different. It's just not normal, not in the norm, right? It's very deviant from behavior. Yabag is a perfect example. Music. So you can use yabag in music. Let's say that you were singing and it's off key, or it's a different tone, or you're just like you're when you're singing it's not in sync, and you're just like out of tune. You have a bad voice, and it's the pitches are all wrong, the tones are all wrong. You can use yabag to describe that. And lastly, we have tabun. Tabun means to cover, right? To cover something, right? I'm gonna put a cover or a lid on something, or to cover up mistakes, or to cover up something, to protect it, or to conceal something to protect. You're just covering something to protect something, right? Or you're putting a seal or protectant to protect something, or seal something to protect it. Or you're covering up someone's mistakes, or you're just gonna put like a cover up to cover up someone else's errors, or to cover, like, put this fake facade, a fake facade to cover up an error, right? To cover, right? I put taklob down here in parentheses because taklob is a similar word to tabun. Tabun is just to cover up the actual verb. Taklob is actually a noun, and a noun that means a lid, the cap or the lid, or a cover of an object, right? So you can have the cap or the lid of a pot, or a cup or a bottle. Yeah, that taklob is what we call it, right? But as I said before, nouns can act like verbs. So taklob you can make taklob into a verb. You can cover something, right? And that's why you can use taklob or tabun similarly, okay?